Hello friends, welcome to Code Crush Coding. In the previous video we have learnt about Python database connectivity, in which we have understood how to connect our Python code to the SQL database. So we have already learned how to install the MySQL database and also how to create a table into a database, and also install the MySQL connector, which will act as a middleware between the connection for Python code and database. So in this video we will create the code to connect to the MySQL database. So there are basically 4 steps you need to follow to connect a Python application to your database. So first step is import mysql.connector module. So this is the module that we have installed or configured in our system, which is mysql.connector. So we need to import that mysql.connector module. After that we need to create the connection object. We will see in detail how to create the connection object. After creating the connection object, we need to create the cursor object, so that we will also see in detail how to create the cursor object. And the last and final step is to execute the SQL query. So query can be of any type, like if you want to list the databases, so you can use the show databases query. If you want to insert a record into table, you can use the insert into query. So we will see all this in detail. So let's start with the first step, which is our import mysql.connector module. So let's go to our PyCharm. So here I have python db.py python file. So as we have installed the MySQL connector, we can import it here by using the keyword import, then mysql.connector. So if the mysql.connector is installed in your machine, then you will not get any error here, but if the mysql.connector is not installed, you will face the issue here. So you can check the previous video to install the mysql.connector. Here once you import the mysql.connector, after that you need to create the connection. So how to create the connection? To create a connection between the MySQL database and the Python application, the connect method of mysql.connector module is used. So inside this module there is one method called connect, which is used. So how to use that particular method here? So first you need to provide the package name here, which is our MySQL, or the module name mysql.connector.connect. So this is the method here, and as you can see, this connect method is taking some arguments. So the different number of arguments are taken by this connect method, which include the details like host name, username, and the database password that you have set while installing our MySQL workbench. So let's make use of this connect method and let's pass the argument here. So the first argument is the host. Provide the value. It will be always localhost. After that, separate with comma for the second value. So let's provide the second value, which is user, and user is the value which is set when you are installing the MySQL workbench. So in my case it is root, and let's have a password also. So password is provided by the field passwd, which is a short form for password, and after that you need to provide the value. So password for my database is also root, so I am providing that particular value. You can provide the values that you have set while installing the MySQL workbench. So once you provide all those details, so this connect method will return some object. So we need to store that particular object into some variable. So let's provide a name for variable. Let's say my name of variable is my connection. So this is the name of variable. You can have any name here. It is just the name of variable which will store the value or the object which is written by this particular connect method. So the first step was importing the SQL connector. Second step was to create the connection object. So we have created this connection objects. Let's try to print mycon here. Let's see what value we get. Save it and run now. So I'm running this code. So see, we are not getting any error. Process finish with exit code 0 means our details are correct: host, username, and password. And we are also getting here the mycon object, which is in this format. So see, we are not getting any error here. So it means the 2 steps are done correctly now. What was the third step? To create the cursor object. So how to create the cursor object? So the cursor object can be defined as an abstraction. Basically we can create the cursor object by calling the cursor function of the connection object. So we can call the cursor object by calling the cursor function. So here how to do that? So here you need to provide my connection. So this is the variable that you have used here. So this particular variable is storing the object of connect method, right? So that you need to use myCon, then provide dot, and then you need to use the cursor method. And once you use the cursor method to store that particular value returned from this cursor method, you need to have one variable here. So let's provide the name of variable as, let's say, CUR, which is a short form for cursor now. So in this way we have created the cursor object. And why we need the cursor object? So cursor object is an important aspect of executing queries to the database. So particularly this variable will be used to execute the queries. So let's try to print that particular value also. Let's see what we are getting here. Print cursor. Let's save it and run now. So see, here we are getting MySQL cursor. So nothing executed yet because we haven't provided any SQL query here. So that's why we are getting that particular output. Now what we can do, we need to perform the last step, which is our executing the query. So let's execute the query. What we will do, we will use the query show databases to list all the databases which are available into our MySQL workbench. So as we have this variable here cursor, so let's use that to execute the query. So cursor dot execute, and inside this execute you need to pass your SQL queries. So I'm saying here show databases. So once I execute this query, then I need to print the values that are provided inside this cursor, because we are executing this query inside this cursor. So how we can print that? So let me print this particular entire statement here. Print cursor.execute and show databases. Let's try to run this code. So here we are getting none. Now why we are getting here none? Because we cannot directly print this particular statement in this way, like cursor.execute. Once we execute this, after that you need to have the for loop for provide any name here, variable name in this particular cursor, and then you can print that particular variable, print x. Now save this code and run now. So once we execute the code, you will see your output. See, these were the query that we have used, show databases, and this is stored inside this cursor. And once we execute the for loop with a variable x in cursor, and we are printing that particular value. So first database that we are getting here is information schema, then MySQL performance schema, PythonDB. If you remember, this is the database that we have created in the last video, PythonDB, sys and testDB. If I show you in MySQL workbench, this will be the number of databases that will be available here. If I execute the same query here, show databases, and let's execute this, execute. So see, these are the databases that we are getting. Now we are using the Python code. Directly from the Python code we are able to get this particular output instead of using the MySQL workbench. We are connecting to the database and we are executing that particular query here. So these were the 4 steps. With the help of those steps you can connect your Python application to database. So first one was importing the MySQL.connector module, then creating the connection object, then creating the cursor object, and the last one was to execute the query. So that's it in this video. In the next video we will try to create the databases and tables from the Python application. Thank you for watching.